If this video found you tonight, it was not by accident. It was by purpose. A purpose as old as the Republic itself. To awaken every citizen whose heart still beats with pride, responsibility, and love of country. This is not merely a story about a song, a flag, or a distant war. This is a story about you, about all of us, and about the living spirit of one nation, forged in fire, tempered by sacrifice, and unbroken in its will to be free. Raise your eyes for a moment and remember the last time you stood in a stadium, a gym, a field, as the national anthem began to play. How many stood at attention? How many placed hand to heart? How many strangers around you removed their hats, fixed their gaze on our country's flag, Old Glory, and truly meant it? Or did you see heads bowed not in honor, but in distraction, phones glowing, idle talk buzzing, the anthem drifting past ears and hearts alike? That moment is not trivial. That moment is the measure of our gratitude, our respect, and our collective memory as a nation. When you stand, when you place your hand over your heart, you are not just honoring a tradition, you are honoring the men and women who have shouldered the burden of freedom, who have stood their ground on battlefields seen and unseen, who have given their lives so you could live in a land where liberty is more than a word. It is a birthright. But somewhere along the way, comfort has bred complacency. Prosperity has bred forgetfulness. We have grown casual with the sacred. We have let routine dull our reverence. That changes now. Tonight, beneath freedom's banner, we reclaim what it means to be an American. Let me tell you a story. A true American story. One that is woven into the very fabric of our flag and every note of our anthem. This is the story of the Star-Spangled Banner. The year was 1814. The ink on the Treaty of Paris that had ended the Revolutionary War was barely dry. The United States was a young nation, still finding its footing, still proving, both to itself and to the world, that the experiment in liberty was not a passing dream, but a living reality. Yet just a few decades after our hard-won independence, the British returned, unwilling to let the American idea stand uncontested. The War of 1812 was Britain's answer to American independence, a final attempt to crush the spirit of a nation that had humiliated the world's greatest empire. In August of 1814, British forces surged into Washington, D.C. They torched the Capitol, the White House, and other government buildings. The president and his wife narrowly escaped. The nation reeled, but the British were not finished. Their gaze shifted to Baltimore, then the nation's third most populous city, protected by a proud stronghold, Fort McHenry. If Fort McHenry fell, so would Baltimore, and with it, the hopes of a battered nation. Among the chaos, prisoners were taken, Americans captured and held aboard British warships. One of these prisoners was Dr. William Beans, a well-respected physician. His absence was keenly felt by friends and neighbors, who enlisted the help of a young Baltimore lawyer, Francis Scott Key, to negotiate his release. Accompanied by Colonel John Skinner, an experienced agent for prisoner exchange, Francis Scott Key set sail to parley with the British. They found themselves aboard the British flagship, their negotiations tense but ultimately successful. The British agreed to release Dr. Beans, but not before their next assault. Key, Skinner, and Beans would have to wait, detained on a British ship, until the attack on Fort McHenry was finished. They became reluctant witnesses to a night that would decide the fate of the American experiment. On September 13, 1814, the British fleet unleashed hell. Rockets, mortars, and bombs rained down upon Fort McHenry for 25 hours, an onslaught the likes of which had rarely been seen. In the darkness, the horizon was lit by the red glare of rockets and the white burst of exploding shells. From the British ships, Key could see, each time the sky was lit, a glimpse of the American flag, 30 by 42 feet, commissioned by Major George Armistead to be so large that the British would have no trouble seeing it from a distance. Inside the fort, 1,000 American soldiers stood their ground. Outgunned, outnumbered, and battered, they refused to surrender. Each man knew that flag was not just cloth. It was a signal to every eye on land and sea to prisoners of war, and to the teeming city behind them, we do not yield. We do not break. We are Americans. Imagine the fear and hope mingled on those decks as the battle raged. Imagine the prisoners, the sailors, the British captors, all wondering, is the flag still there? Is the flag still there? That flag stood for more than territory or a fort. It stood for every freedom that our nation cherishes today. It stood for those who had already died on battlefields from Lexington to Yorktown. It stood for the birthright of every citizen, the right to speak, to worship, to assemble, to live free. As the night wore on, the bombardment seemed endless. For hours, the fort was pounded without pause. But as dawn broke on September 14th, and as the heavy mist and gun smoke began to rise, Francis Scott Key and every American saw what they had prayed for. The flag, battered but unbroken, waving defiantly above the rampart. That moment, after 25 hours of relentless battle, changed the course of the war. The British, seeing the flag and the indomitable spirit of the defenders, deemed the assault too costly and retreated from Baltimore. The tide of war turned. Just months later, a peace treaty was signed, and American sovereignty was secured anew. But the battle for the soul of America was not fought only with cannon and powder. It was fought in the hearts of those who refused to kneel, who understood that liberty must be claimed and reclaimed. Again and again, with each new generation, Francis Scott Key, overwhelmed by what he had witnessed, put pen to paper. The words he wrote that morning became more than a poem. They became the anthem of a nation. The Star-Spangled Banner is not just a song. It is a pledge. It is a testament to the endurance of freedom against overwhelming force. It is the sound of a people who will not go quietly into the night. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars, through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Every time you hear those words, every time those notes rise above a gathering, you are not just singing about the past. You are affirming your place in the ongoing story of America. You are declaring that you too will carry the banner when your time comes. But let us be honest, reverence is not a passive thing. Patriotism is not idle nostalgia. It is a living, breathing, daily choice. So when the anthem plays, stand tall, remove your hat, place your hand over your heart, and sing, not out of routine, but out of gratitude, out of pride, out of respect for all those who came before and all those who will come after. When you see the flag, on a battlefield, at a stadium, on a porch, or in a classroom, it is not just cloth. It is the living symbol of every American sacrifice, of every act of courage, and of every prayer for freedom ever uttered on these shores. Let us teach our children not just the words, but the meaning. Let us remind each other what it means to stand together, united under freedom's banner. Let us remember that the freedoms we enjoy were won and defended at great cost. That somewhere tonight, a soldier stands watch, a family waits for news, a veteran remembers fallen friends, and a new generation quietly wonders whether they too are ready to answer the call. Patriotism is not blind loyalty. It is love, love of country, of freedom, of fellow citizens, of the ideals that bind us. It is courage, the courage to stand for what is right, even when it is not easy. It is vigilance, the vigilance to guard against the slow creep of apathy, the corrosion of division, the temptation to put self above service. Tonight I call on you to rally under freedom's banner, to be the example in your home, your community, your country, to stand tall and proud, not just when it is easy, but especially when it is hard, to refuse to let disrespect, division, or indifference weaken the ties that make us Americans. What does it look like to honor the flag and the anthem in our daily lives? It means living your values, defending the rights of others, even those with whom you disagree, speaking up for what is true, just, and free, voting with wisdom, debating with respect, serving when called, sacrificing when necessary. It means remembering that the torch of liberty is passed in every generation, and that you, tonight, are the torchbearer. As long as you keep the flame alive, as long as you remember whose shoulders you stand on, freedom will not perish. This is not just a call for reverence. This is a call for action. Now more than ever, our country needs citizens who are awake, engaged, and unafraid. The world is watching. Our children are watching. The future is being written in every act of courage, every note of the anthem, every time the flag is raised in honor, not apathy. To those who serve in our armed forces, to every veteran, to law enforcement who protects the homeland, and to every family who has given a son or daughter for this country, know that your sacrifice is not forgotten. To those who stand the line in our communities, who teach our children, who build and heal and lead, your service, too, is the backbone of our republic. To every American, this is your land, your flag, your anthem, your legacy. Do not take it for granted. Do not let it slip into the background. Remember Fort McHenry. Remember Francis Scott Key. Remember the miracle of that flag waving through the bombs and fire. And know, as long as we stand united, the banner of freedom will yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Let us be the generation that remembers, the generation that stands, the generation that sings the anthem with full voice and full heart, the generation that does not shrink from the challenges of our time, but rises to meet them, as Americans always have. Rally under freedom's banner. Stand tall, proud and unwavering. Honor the flag, honor the anthem, honor those who paid the ultimate price, and let your actions declare to the world that the fire of liberty still burns strong in the heart of America. May God bless the flag, the anthem, and the United States of America, now and always.